the
This
call and I
conference
want
will
you.
now be recorded.
All right, now we're official. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the call. My name's Jennifer Dorton, excuse me, and I am the Deputy Director for SECOORA. Um, Today's session is going to be your opportunity to ask questions and get clarity on this request for proposals. Before you invest a lot of time in writing a proposal, we want to make sure we walk through the key elements of the RFP, highlight what we're really looking for, and help you decide if help you decide if it's a good fit for your organization. I think I reached out to a lot of folks, but I don't know that I got everyone. But if you look on this slide where you see SECOORA.org/SECOORA request for proposals DMAC, if you go to that website, please download the current version of the RFP. We caught some errors in section 4, and we wanted to get that revised as quickly as we could and make sure folks know to go and download that revised proposal. It was just revised this morning. So when we get towards the end, I know folks haven't really had a lot of chance to look at those revisions. I'm going to walk through some of those, what those changes were. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end of this. Or if we're on a slide and you just have a burning question because you see the info in front of you, put it in the chat. And then we can still cover that question towards the end, but please use the chat function also. Claire's going to moderate that chat function, and we will also try to get to all those questions as well. So at the end, in the chats, however is best for you, feel free to answer or ask questions. We will take all the questions you ask. We will have the answers for those, and we will update our FAQ document. And at the very end, I'll pull that document back up as well, just so everybody knows exactly where it is. But we are going to try to keep that document updated with questions that come in. So if you're going to apply for this RFP, please do monitor that FAQ document so that you can stay abreast of any questions and answers that have come through. Of note, proposals are due March 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so I'm going to jump right in and get started. So just as some background, many of you may not know who SECOORA is and why this contract matters, but SECOORA is a regional nonprofit. We do not have the in-house technical staff to run this data management system ourselves. So the contractor we hire is going to be our data management capability. So this is not just a software project, it's an operational infrastructure for a federally certified ocean observing system. So basically, if our DMAC fails, our NOAA certification is a risk. And for folks who don't know what certification means, I'll give you just a quick update. But all 11 US IUs, US Integrated Ocean Observing System, regional associations are NOAA certified as Regional Coastal Observing Systems, RCOS, Regional Coastal Observing Systems. This certification confirms that our data meet federal data quality standards. Certification ensures that non-federal ocean data is trusted for use by NOAA, that improves data sharing, and it provides liability coverage to the RAs. So this is a really important function of being certified. Each of the regional associations, including SECOORA, must submit rigorous documentation regarding our data management, data quality, and operational procedures to the IU's program office every 5 years for a review and to reauthorize our certification. As far as data standards go, certified data must be accessible through approved formats, such as our ERDAP system, and comply with archiving standards. And often we feed directly to the NOAA Global Telecommunication System. So you can find all of SECOORA's certification document on our website at secoora.org/certification. And I will note, we went ahead and added that link into the Q&A document as well, so that you can always go back and find it in that Q&A document. So a little bit more about SECOORA. We work with the 4 states. We work within the 4 states of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. We fund and directly collect observations in near real time from buoys, water level sensors, underwater autonomous vehicles, high frequency radar, water quality stations, web cameras, and the list kind of keeps going. We also ingest non-real-time data into our data management system. And this can come from like non-real-time water quality stations or seafloor or subsurface moorings. And And finally, we also do host some model data in our current data management system. So we have a pretty big presence within our region as far as being a very trusted source for providing data that gets into a lot of different NOAA pipelines. So again, go into our website. You can learn a lot more about SECOORA from our website. And please do go to our certification link, because that will give you a lot of information about what it takes to be certified, the type of documentation we have to provide, and the data management plan. All right, so I want to really stress, we are not looking for just a contractor to provide data management services. We are really looking for a partner. We are a small nonprofit. We have limited technical expertise when it comes to our data management side of the house. And we need a contractor who can really tell us things that we don't know, not just someone who waits for instructions from us. So we need somebody staying on top of our data management system and really collaborating with our SECOORA team. We're a small staff. There's only 6 of us full time, and then we do have a few contractors, but we are very small. So this data management contractor is going to be a core member of our team. So the RFP explicitly states that SECOORA requires a technical partner, not a vendor. So if your proposal reads like a list of deliverables that you're going to execute on command, it will probably not score as well as someone who comes in with, that really highlights their strategic partnership capabilities. We do have one of the elements of the overall review is a strategic partnership capability, which accounts for 10% of the total evaluation score. And it is separate from the technical qualifications. So we're not just scoring your technical skills. We're also scoring how well it looks like you can be a partner. So think about how you demonstrate this in your proposal, but think about how you're going to advise us and help us grow. Required participation, just so everyone understands this, we have an annual meeting, and then I'm sorry, I just got ahead of myself. On the required participation, we do have annual strategic planning with our data management teams, and we kind of try to lay out what do we want to accomplish this year. We also have weekly or bi-weekly, meaning every 2-week calls with our data management team. Are we staying on top of things? Has something lapsed? Is there something that's blocked? How do we kind of keep things moving forward? And we also really are trying to diversify our funding. One way we can diversify funding is by bringing on new projects, bringing on projects that are not federally funded. And we really need a good data management team that we can showcase, all of our skills and capabilities to help us in these business development activities. So we have 6 strategic priorities that are outlined within the proposal. Within the proposal. The order of these priorities is intentional, and it reflects the real organizational needs, not just a wish list. These are described in section 1.1 of the RFP, so you can get the full details of each of these priorities there. But priority 1 is especially needed. We want to quantify and track how many people are actually using our data system. This is the highest priority in the RFP. Currently, we don't have good user analytics, and that gap directly impacts our ability to diversify our funding. So this is a key area is priority 1. Additionally, proposals that do not address priority 1 with specific concrete approach, don't give us vague aspirations, give us a concrete approach, will not score as well in the technical qualification side. And I am going to skip all the way down to 6. I sort of mentioned this in the previous slide, but SECOORA really can diversify our funding by bringing in new data types. Recently, we started working with surface elevation tables, and that is really primarily of importance to federal and state agencies looking at marsh ecosystems and how they're responding to sea level rise. And we really had to kind of be really nimble within our data management community so that we can ingest and visualize these new data sets based on new business developments. And our goal is as we diversify our funding, some of that funding would also flow to the data management contractor to bring in these new systems. So just think of that kind of as more of an add-on area, is supporting us as we try to increase our funding. Okay, this slide is probably one of the more substantive slides in the presentation. So we're going to hang on here for just a minute. And if folks have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And we can definitely cover those. But right now, the full scope, we're looking for a budget of up to $300,000. We realize that everything that's in this RFP would probably cost more than $300,000. So we kind of I've tiered this so that we want anyone applying to identify the must-haves. Like, these are the core services that are essential for operations, that help us maintain our federal compliance. And if it's a new data provider, how you're going to really manage this transition period, taking on all the data from the back-end system from the previous provider into a new provider. And then I want to think about the enhanced services, things that would be really good to have, and think about the cost of those. What are these strategic priorities? User analytics is a high-ranking one for us. And what are system improvements? Are there ways that we can sort of revolutionize how we're doing business, that also would make the system more nimble and faster and more responsive whenever users are looking for data. And then we have these aspirational capabilities. What are we listing in here that you think, well, it's nice to have, but it's going to require more than $300,000 to get to this piece? And really kind of tier your response based on what you see as the core services you can provide, the enhanced services, and the aspirational capabilities. You do have to use this 3-tiered structure. I think that's in section 3.0. I could be wrong. But just give us an honest, prioritized, and rational proposal. I mean, that's what we're looking for. We want you to tell us what you can do and how you can be a good strategic partner with SECOORA, and how you can provide these core enhanced and services, and what you might be able to do if it's above 300,000 is available. We make the comment, ambitious proposals that ignore the budget are penalized. What we are not anticipating is somebody to come in and say, we can do everything for $300,000, because we know that's not going to work well for any of us. So come in and be honest in your proposal. We really are going to appreciate that. All right. Final statement on this one, and then I'll move on, is that 3-tier structure will also give us some contract flexibility. So it kind of assures that if we end up getting additional funding, that we can, know in advance what we can add into your contract as additional funding may come available. Okay, so year 1 of this contract is sort of a big year, right? So new providers, you really have to come up with a very thorough 90-day transition plan. All new providers have to submit a 90-day transition plan. It has to have realistic expectations. And we really are thinking in year 1, that transition plan and getting everything set up is going to be what's really the biggest lift. And then that priority one, that user tracking piece we're looking for, probably begins at the end of year 1, probably into year 2. If we fund the incumbent provider, the transition burden is not as big, and we would anticipate that user tracking piece starts on day 1, and that any backlog of work is also started on day 1 as well, that we can just kick off and keep things moving. Proposals have to clearly address which scenario you're applying under, either a new provider or an incumbent provider. And, be honest about it. Reviewers totally understand the difference between the two, and then they will take that into account when they review your proposal. So I'm going to pause just to make sure everybody's had a chance to look over this. If I was clear as mud, let me know in the chat, and Claire can point it out. Okay, so navigating section 2, the technical scope. As I mentioned earlier, you can find a lot of information on our certification page. I realize kind of now we've got priorities in here twice, but in terms of the data that we bring in, our highest priority for data that we want in our data portal and in our data holdings is SECOORA funded data. And that's kind of like tier 1 data. if you're looking at our certification page, you go to the DMAC section, which I think is section 3, there's an appendix F. It lists all of the SECOORA funded data streams. I will say right now, though, it is not exhaustive, as we have a couple data streams that we need to add, which includes passive acoustics, the surface elevation tables, as well as some OA sensors that have recently been installed down in the Florida Keys. So we do have a few things that are not listed there. So just so you know that it is not exhaustive, but it does give you a really good sense of the types of data we collect and who our funded partners are. The next level of data priorities that we bring in are strategic partners. And you can think of these as maybe some of the NOAA stations. We like to incorporate NOAA co-ops water level stations into our data management system, as well as some of the offshore buoys, for example, that the NOAA National Data Buoy Center deploys. You know, these sensors are really good to view along with SECOORA funded sensors. You can kind of get a better idea and see things, you know, how things are happening around the coast and offshore waters. Then there's the tier 3, just some regional data aggregation. I'll tell you right now, we are looking in this next 5-year proposal to really streamline the data priorities and really streamline the data we bring in. Right now, we have a lot of data that's really not used and a lot of models that really aren't used. So we're going to try to streamline this and kind of pare down some of our data holdings. Another key piece of this is QuarTOD, which is quality assurance and quality control for real-time ocean data. This is the quality control standard for all real-time ocean data. It's a federal requirement. Proposals that treat quality control as generic rather than QuarTOD specific will not score as well under the technical qualifications. Of note, the QuarTOD manuals are available online through one of the IU's. It's on the IU's website, but I also have already added a link to the QuarTOD manuals and their landing page in the Q&A document for this RFP. So that information is available and you can go access that. Another piece of this is data dissemination. ERDAP, OpenDAP, and WMS are not optional. These are required data dissemination protocols. And if you guys don't have experience with these systems, that could be a significant gap. These are data sharing protocols we have to adhere to, and we just don't really have any way around that. Finally, we do try to archive the SECOORA funded data, that tier 1 SECOORA funded data, with NOAA's National Centers for Environmental Information, NCEI. And so we will need to make sure we have a current data sharing agreement with them. And then, of course, we want everything to be open source. You know, this is federal dollars paying for this, all the work we're doing. So having proprietary software and proprietary strategies is not going to go as well as having open source, where everything is, you know, understandable and available and built on an open technology stack as much as possible. Additional pieces of this RFP. System uptime. We're looking for 95% uptime for the website and data portal. So basically, we want to make sure that, you know, if things have to, you know, shut down for maintenance or something has to come offline, people are notified, but we really want to keep everything up and operational, right? We do have incident response listed. I will say this is a little bit, I don't want to say tricky to describe, but basically if there's something that happens and your system goes down, if it's a normal business day, we would like to make sure that we have emails coming from your staff saying, here's what's going on, here's our plan of approach, here's how long we think things will be down. If it's after hours, weekends, you know, that we do have more grace time here, you know, giving 12 hours for someone to at least getting back to us would be useful. And, you know, you can also consider using automated alerts so everyone's notified if something happens. But this is kind of a key piece too. We just need to make sure everything stays up for as much as possible of the time. We do have national and regional coordination meetings. There's an IU's annual meeting that occurs roughly in May of every year. SECOORA hosts an annual meeting every year. We usually have our data management team come and give an update. And then we may have some local, and when I say local, I mean local to the Southeast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, data meetings that occur. We've had like water level meetings where it was good to have our data management team there so they could talk to folks and let them know how they ingest data and what the requirements are. So I would budget for up to about 4 trips per year, 1 to DC, and then 3 within the SECOORA region. And finally, documentation. We usually try to have user guides and any technical specs for the data management system and API references open and available. You'll definitely see more about that, written about that in section 2. Okay, the proposal structure. This is one of the areas where we realized we had a little bit of a typo going. The technical proposal is a 12-page limit. You'll submit it as a PDF document. There are 4 required sections. The title page, which does not count towards the 12-page limit. The original RFP made it sound like it did, and I wanted to get that clarified. That does not count towards your 12-page limit, but it is required. And then you have a strategic approach, your technical and operational responsibilities, and the phase transition and implementation plan. So all that has to be captured within your technical proposal. Then we have a separate appendices. These are submitted with the technical document that was just on the previous slide. So your appendices are submitted with your technical plan, and it all is uploaded into SECOORA's eGrant system as one document. The appendices do not count towards the 12-page limit. So we have to clearly understand your team and your qualifications. So CVs with named personnel for key personnel are required. So please do not submit TBD for key roles. If you don't have a person named for a position you're proposing, that could be seen as a weakness under the team experience and capacity. Your continuity of operations plan has to be included, and it's a 2-page limit, and an agile project management approach is a 1-page limit. So these appendices are required, but don't count towards the 12 pages for your actual proposal. The cost proposal is a separate document with 4-page limit, and it is uploaded separately in eGrants. So in eGrants, there's 2 things you have to upload. I'm going to go backwards. The technical proposal with the appendices, and then a cost proposal. Okay, so your cost proposal. There are 8 required cost categories: personnel and the fringe benefits rate that's applied. So we need to see a breakdown of what the personnel costs are, what your fringe rate is, and then the fringe cost. Any equipment, based on new OMB rules, equipment is anything over $10,000. It used to be 5, but they recently increased it to 10. Supplies, travel, other costs that might be required to complete DMAC services, and your indirect costs. So indirect cost rates must be supported by a federally approved indirect cost rate agreement. So you can include a URL if your IDC rate agreement is available online, or you can include a copy of it with your cost proposal. And I should say that if you have to include a copy of it with your cost proposal, that does not count towards your page limit for your cost proposal. So don't worry about that. We just have to have that because we have to submit that IDC rate agreement to NOAA. If you do not have a negotiated IDC rate, then you can charge the de minimis rate of 15%. And you just have to state that it's 15%. And if anyone has questions on IDC or how it's applied, please reach out to me via email, and I can help walk you through that. You will also need to provide a cost estimate of years 2 through 5, including escalation rates. One of the things that we want to make sure, because I don't see it right here. So, well, it does say it here. So you need to show your core, enhanced, and aspirational cost in your cost rate agreement. So this really kind of shows that you can tell us exactly what the costs are for core and enhanced services, and anything that might be above that $300 or $300,000 rate, those aspirational costs, break those down for us so that we can kind of get a sense of, if we have more than 300,000, what we also might be able to afford. So proposals are evaluated based on the following 5 criteria. Your technical and operational criteria equals 60% of the total score. Cost is scored on clarity, realism, and alignment with this 3-tiered structure. We're not going just with the lowest bidder. Technical qualifications, I think I already said that, sorry. Under the technical qualifications, we're looking specifically at IUs and oceanographic data experience. We're not looking for just generic cloud or DevOps credentials. Okay, we want to know that you do have some have experience dealing with oceanographic data. Under the operational approach, the transition plan does matter. We want to see a concrete 90-day milestones, not just general description of how you manage a project. And sorry, I was going to talk about the review panel and just realized that's on a different slide. So sorry for that pause. So the review process, we will have a review panel. We will have up to who will review all the proposals that come in. Our review panel is going to be probably 3 to 4 people, and they will do the initial review based on the criteria on the previous slide. We will come up with the 3 finalists, which we will then schedule for interviews. Right now, I don't really have the exact process for the interviews, but it might include some type of presentation from the finalists. And then we'll also give you time to answer any questions that the reviewers may have had on your proposal. So for example, if they wanted to see some additional clarity in your cost proposal, that would be the time you would get to discuss that. And then once we pick a finalist, we'll go to contract negotiation. And remember, as I said, and that the last slide is going to show it, everything has to be submitted through egrants.secoora.org. That is where all the proposals for SECOORA go to. Do not email me your proposal. The other thing is the contract will begin when SECOORA receives our 26 to 31 NOAA IUs award. Right now, we have a tentative start date of July 1, but we have recently been told by the IU's program office that these proposals probably won't start on July 1. It might be more like September. So just so you know, we're going to list July 1, but I just want everybody to realize that is not a hard start date. There is a little bit of wiggle room in there because everything's dependent on when we receive our next 5-year cooperative agreement from the IU's program office. And last slide, logistics, as I've said before, egrants.secoora.org. Register early. If you haven't registered in that system yet, I would go ahead and ask you to do it. It's a 2-part verification that's required. When you log into eGrants, you will see this RFP opportunity clearly on the home screen. When you get in, you will click on that, and then you will go through the system and you will have to register yourself. The 2 parts are the online piece as well as a phone verification. Again, I just mentioned July 1 is the tentative start date, and it would go through June 30th, but it does depend on the NOAA timeline. And eligible applicants, key piece here, state agencies, universities, research institutions, NGOs, private industry, everybody can apply. And again, FAQs are posted online, and we will keep updating those as we get questions in. So feel free to always go back and look for information there. And you can also reach out to me. All right, this is the last slide. And since I can't see anybody or see any of the chats, I'm gonna hit escape. If we have to go back to a slide, we will. But I'm gonna at least jump out for a minute and see where things stand. Oh, actually, I was gonna go. Can you see that? Can you see the website, Claire?
Yes.
Okay. So just so everybody understands, SECOORA.org, SECOORA request for proposals DMAC. If you scroll down, you will see where it says any questions related to RFP can be emailed to me, jdorton@secoora.org, and then this running Q&A document. This is a hot link. So if you click on this, this will take you to questions that we have already put answers to. As I mentioned, the Quartile test requirements, there's a link already in the Q&A for those. And NOAA certification documents, there's a link to these as well. And I made a comment about the fact that the funded data streams are found in Appendix F. The other thing we did is notes and other updates. We identified where we needed to make updates to the RFP from the original version. You can look over these. I'm not going to go through all of this. The proposal submission and review process had 8 sections that were listed as required elements of the technical proposal. That was incorrect. It was updated to indicate that there are 4 mandatory sections, not 8. So that was probably the biggest correction that we had to make. So if anybody has any questions on that, please let us know. All right. How about, were there chat questions?
No, there were no chat questions. I dropped a couple links and more information in the chat, but no questions yet.
Okay.
I had a quick question I can ask right now. Quick, is there going to be a copy of this recording that's sent out?
Yeah. Actually, Claire, answer that one.
Yes. We will post this recording on the website that Jen just shared with the call. I'll post it on the Q&A document too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so hearing no other questions, I'm guessing folks may have questions, but they're not going to put them out here with everybody, which is fine. Feel free to email me with any questions you have. Happy to answer them. We do try to keep everything open and transparent though. So we do try to take folks' questions and put them on the Q&A so that the same information is available to everyone. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. I really appreciate your interest in this request for proposals opportunity. And we look forward to hopefully working with one of you guys in the future.